Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's exclusive analysis. In today's video, we're discussing Bitcoin, Ethereum, the total crypto market cap, and maybe some few altcoins if I decide that this video is suitable for it. So starting with Bitcoin futures chart, one of the reasons I like to use the Bitcoin futures chart is because this actually freezes the Bitcoin trading and it's more like the actual stock market. It follows the movements more of the stock market. So I like the fact that there's a pause in the Bitcoin futures chart. Typically, there isn't much of a divergence when you use the Bitcoin 24-hour charts on TradingView, Coinbase, and so on, so on, and so forth. But I do like to see the volume flows based off of the daily flows and the gaps and how price action actually closes on a daily basis. So as of today, Bitcoin futures chart closed at 35,310. Certainly, this has been an impressive move in the price action of Bitcoin. What I think is happening, though, is something very similar to this point where we had this bullish consolidation, basically sucking in new money, luring people in. It's called distribution, and then they take it right down lower to the next support level. So, needless to say, the Bitcoin price action tends to punish late chasers, and people that chase this crypto price action tend to be left holding the bag in the short term. It's a very, very technical asset the way crypto moves. But one thing's for certain on the technical basis, if you scroll out all the way and you use your trend line to draw a low pivot from your COVID low. So this was your COVID low crash in March, early March of 2020. You draw that trend line through these massive, massive pivot points here where Bitcoin price was rejected. You hit another big, big pivot zone over here, and then you hit obviously the pivot zone a couple days ago. So that's a big, big level of resistance going back all the way to COVID trend line that Bitcoin is starting to get to. So that's one major, major technical factor as to why Bitcoin is more likely to fall back. You also have this big, big overbought zone in the daily basis. And then I want to show you the weekly chart. Take a look at the weekly chart, okay? So Bitcoin has no doubt had 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of now basically upside. But one thing that I want to bring your attention to is this area that it's trading in. So first off, we have a major, major breakdown gap all at this area over here. And you can see the Bitcoin price actions on the futures chart actually filled that key technical gap with that big, big Pearson run up of 36,000. So that's a beautiful sign to see that on a technical basis, you now have a massive weekly gap that has been filled. What's important about this gap here? This gap is massive in the grand scheme of things. Why? Well, when you look at Bitcoin's structure as an asset, you have this beautiful high here, your all-time high at around 69,000 on Bitcoin. Then Bitcoin had its big, big drop, and you started forming this weekly bear flag range. So you can clearly see the flagpole, the weekly flagpole, going all the way down, and you had this bearish range, this bearish channel that Bitcoin was consolidating in. So the importance of this bear flag breakdown is this weekly gap. A lot of the people that were bottom fishing Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin at technical support, the low range of this flag pattern, ended up seeing a massive gap down and a 1 week drop. A drop that really took Bitcoin down 28% in a 1 week period. That is a massive, massive move down. Often most investors and traders can't even react that fast within the week to really exit out of their position. So all of these traders that started bottom fishing on this massive, massive 6 weeks down in a row candle hitting technical support are now finally break even. Basically almost over. It's more than just over a year ago that they're finally break even on their investments. So when investors now finally get break even, after basically 16 months of price action in a very extended states, a lot of these sellers, a lot of these buyers that bought in here are now net sellers. So we expect this price action to form a lot of distribution, but ultimately I do think at the minimum we're going to get a retrace to 31,800, and I even think it's more likely to really see Bitcoin test the low end of this upsloping trend. I think Bitcoin can probably get a retrace to the low boundary range of this trend. Now, could this happen over a couple weeks, a month? Absolutely it could. So this is a rising trend line. Therefore, the longer it takes, the higher your support level will be. So just remember, this is a massive bear flag breakdown gap that the gap was just filled last week. And you're very, very extended. You have a multi-year trend line of resistance. And I do think that this is a big, big line in the sand for Bitcoin as of now. Even if you put a fib retrace from your high, your all-time high, down to your low. Another massive factor to support a pullback is the fact that you also happen to be at a massive Fibonacci number, the 382, pretty much identical to where that gap was just filled. That is super freaky. A lot of technical factors stacking up here to really put it into perspective that a short trade setup is looming. Let's look at the total crypto market cap, now bolstering 1.3 million. If we look at the weekly chart of this total crypto market cap, look at this beautiful channel that we've been trading in. High pivot, low pivot, high pivot, center point, retrace, your first Fibonacci level you're trying to break through. But again, you're at the top of this channel after a 4-week rally. The likelihood, the scenarios are that the total crypto market cap sees a pullback, which would ultimately result in Bitcoin seeing some near-term downside. Let's look at Ethereum, because Ethereum has certainly been running a little bit here. Really, Ethereum has had 4 weeks up. It could actually go a little bit higher in the near term, but if you draw a simple trend line, I'm going to flip back to the daily chart of Ethereum. Take your high pivot to your low pivot. Ethereum's trying to break out here, but you have not confirmed. You really start to need to get a daily close above this 1915 level and hold there for this bullish structure to kind of remain. There is a chance that Ethereum could actually test this double top at 2140, but right now you are at some decent technical resistance, and I believe you are starting to see a little bit of an RSI divergence. So you had your big spike up, you made a little bit of a high, you made a little bit of a double top on the RSI with a little bit less than a higher high, and now you're making a little bit of a lower high on the RSI but a higher high price. So your first negative divergence is starting to occur in the ETH price right at a massive resistance zone. So just be very careful with the overall crypto space. Let's run through some more charts here in the crypto space just to see if there's any other actionable trade setups that we can actually look through. Ripple's been super strong. Take a look at Ripple here. Ripple's extended 88 RSI. It's kind of like this point over here, except this was just a straight 1-day move. This has been a multi-day move, which leads me to think that maybe there's a little bit more upside in Ripple. But again, this is a pretty big parabolic rise in the Ripple price action. I certainly wouldn't be chasing it from here. Let's just look at the technical resistance that we have at play. You can see that if you draw a trend line from your all-time high to this major wick, you can see that Ripple maybe wants to hit 78 cents, maybe even a pierce of 80 cents in the coming sessions. Let's look at BNB. Same sort of thing. BNB is coming up into a massive area. It looked to be putting in bearish consolidation. It has now had a phenomenal rally all the way from the low of 202 to about 250. But this is a big line in the sand for BNB. Why is that? Well, just draw your trend line across these major pivots. You know, you can see you have some pretty big resistance points. If you get through this pivot and this pivot, you likely will test this pivot zone over here, sitting around 265 on the charts. And this is also another trend line that I'm watching, is the breakdown. This is your bearish breakdown. Here you can see that BNB may want to actually it's hitting that zone as we speak. So this might be the high here in BNB around this 257 zone, because you can see it's your pivot, your big bearish breakdown, huge fall from basically 236 all the way down to 204, massive fall, and now you're coming up into that zone of resistance now. So that would be a full-on retrace back to the breakdown zone. Let's look at Uniswap. Uniswap's powering up. This one looks like it has a little bit more upside. I would see your first resistance at around 570. You can see these low pivots here. You have 1, 2, 3 low pivots, as well as a pivot high over here. Let's look at Chainlink. Chainlink has been a mover, shaker and a mover. Take a look at that. I remember buying up some Chainlink personally here at around 702. I'm fully out of it, but definitely a huge move up in Chainlink. Take a look at this move to the high side. You are coming up into some decent resistance points now on Chainlink, being the fact that you're hitting this massive pivot zone in the coming days. So a little bit of upside in some individual coins, but I think most of the majority of the move, the risk to reward, certainly doesn't favor the long side yet in crypto. I would wait for a little bit more of a pullback. You know, you flip through some of these like Matic getting very extended, even Solana getting absolutely extended to the high side. So we'll see. Crypto can always surprise us both on the high side and the low side. But again, for me to chase price action when you've had a multi-day rally of about 40 to 80% in some of the crypto names, you have to just see some sort of consolidation and digestion of that move, personally speaking. Please give this video a big like down below if you're interested in some crypto setups, how I'm trading some individual stocks, the actual Bitcoin price action itself. Definitely check out at tradingcapital.ca.